All right, let's dive into a classic Sherlock Holmes mystery, one that takes us all the way back to 1895. This isn't about some dramatic, high-stakes crime, but about a little bit of academic intrigue. It's a case where the world's greatest detective has to solve a puzzle using pretty much nothing but the power of pure observation.
But before we get into it, I've got a question for you. Picture this. You're in an exam and you see your partner, your friend, cheating. What do? It's a really tough call, isn't it? And that exact dilemma, that pull between loyalty, honesty, and just doing the right thing, is right at the heart of the mystery we're about to unravel.
So our story kicks off, like so many great ones do, with a knock on the door of 221 Baker Street. A college tutor, a Mr. Hilton Soames, bursts in, and he is absolutely frantic. He's got a problem that's about to cause a huge scandal at his very prestigious college. You can just feel the stress coming off this guy. This isn't just some small problem. He calls it a very painful incident. And the clock is ticking. He needs Holmes's help, and he needs it like yesterday. So, what's the big deal? Well, the exam papers for a really important scholarship have been seen by someone. They've been compromised. And the exam is scheduled for the very next morning. If Holmes can't find the culprit in time, the whole scholarship's integrity is shot. Of course, Holmes and Watson don't waste a second. They head straight to the college to get to the bottom of this, starting right where it all happened, in the tutor's own room. And here we are, the scene of the crime. It's the tutor's ground floor study. He left the exam papers right out on that table for about an hour, completely unattended. So Holmes gets right to work, pulling out his famous magnifying glass and just absorbing every single detail of the room. Okay, so who could have done it? The list of suspects is actually pretty short. It narrows down to 3 students who live in the apartments right above the study: Steve, Gilchrist, and Ralph. They're really the only ones who had easy access. After a really thorough search, Holmes finds, well, almost nothing. There are no fingerprints, no obvious signs of a break-in. All he has are 3 totally bizarre clues: a couple of pencil shavings, a tiny little pile of sawdust, and some fresh scratches on the desk. What on earth could that mean? Now, this is where the genius of Sherlock Holmes really kicks in. I mean, to you or me, this is just junk, right? Random bits of stuff. But to Holmes, this is the whole story, just written in a secret code. The real question is, are you starting to see how these things might connect? Let's watch how Holmes starts to connect these seemingly random dots. He's done with the physical evidence for now. It's time to start analyzing the people. He brings in the college servant, a man named Bannister. Now, Bannister was the one who found Mr. Soames after he discovered the papers had been seen. But as Holmes starts asking questions, something about Bannister's story just doesn't feel right. His behavior is a little off. And here it is, the big red flag in Bannister's story. He says he felt faint and needed to sit down. Okay, fair enough. But instead of sitting in the chair that was right by the door, the logical choice, he walked all the way across the room to sit in a different one. Why would he do that? Holmes instantly realizes this wasn't random. Bannister was trying to hide something. And now we see Holmes's brilliant mind at work. It's a chain of logic. First, the height. By calculating the angles from outside the window, he figures out the culprit had to be tall, really tall, just to see the papers on the desk. Second, the athlete. Those clues, the sawdust, the scratches, they suggest he's a long jumper, probably coming right from practice. And third, the cover-up. Bannister's weird behavior, walking across the room, that was a deliberate diversion. The height is the absolute key. Over 6 feet tall. Just with that one single fact, Holmes can probably eliminate 2 of the 3 student suspects. See? The clues aren't random at all. They're painting a very, very specific picture of one particular person. So, with all his deductions in place, Holmes is ready. The next morning, he goes back to the college, but he's not there to investigate anymore. He's there to reveal the truth and confront the person responsible. And boom, there it is, no beating around the bush. Holmes calls in the tall, athletic student, Gilchrist, and just lays it all out there, confronting him directly. Can you imagine the tension in that room? Gilchrist's reaction tells you everything you need to know. He's totally stunned, completely silent, and the first thing he does is look straight at the servant, Bannister. In that one single glance, Holmes knows his entire theory was spot on. So this is exactly how it all went down. Gilchrist was coming back from long jump practice. That's where the sawdust came from. He's tall, so he could see the papers through the window. He came in, and his spiked athletic shoes made those scratches on the desk. The pencil shavings? They were from his pencil as he was frantically copying the questions. But he made one critical mistake. He left his gloves behind. Bannister came in, found the gloves, and faked fainting in that specific chair to hide them, giving Gilchrist a chance to get away. But hold on, the story doesn't actually end there. Just when you think it's a simple, open and shut case of cheating, the whole thing takes a surprising turn. There's a much deeper story here about character, loyalty, and even redemption. You see, Bannister wasn't just some random servant. It turns out he used to work for Gilchrist's family. He knew the boy. So after the incident, he confronted him, not as an accuser, but more like a father figure. He appealed to Gilchrist's better nature, his sense of honor, and convinced him that even though he'd messed up badly, he could still choose to do the right thing and not use the information he'd stolen. So when you strip it all away, what does this case really teach us about the art of deduction and the way Sherlock Holmes's mind works? Well, here's the entire case file, all wrapped up. Gilchrist was in fact guilty, but thanks to Bannister's intervention, he decided to withdraw from the exam. Bannister helped him, not to cheat, but out of a sense of loyalty. And those other students, they were cleared completely. It all came down to those tiny, seemingly random clues. And that right there is the core lesson from Holmes. It's not magic. It's about paying an almost ruthless amount of attention to the little things. It's the ability to look at some pencil shavings, a bit of sawdust, and an oddly placed chair and see the entire complex human story that everyone else just walks right past. And that brings us to one last question to think about. Gilchrist did something dishonest for sure, but it was that very mistake and Bannister's compassionate response to it that pushed him to make a truly honorable choice in the end. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Can our worst moments sometimes be the very thing that reveals our true character?